Thank you, judges. Hello. Roxanne. 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 Okay, so we are now judging the portrait category, and this is proudly sponsored by KL and Canson. Thank you very much. I'm Robin Hills. I'll be your panel chair for this category, and I'm very capably assisted by Tony Holden. Yay! And our preamble is the portraiture category is broadly defined and can include family, corporate, travel, creative and interpretive portraits. Entries into the portrait category will be judged broadly based on content, impact and professional quality. The judges will be asked to consider portraiture in its broadest context. It will be judged in two sections, portrait open and single capture, and we are starting with the single capture entries. This section is intended to reward technical and creative excellence in photographing and presenting an authentic representation of a scene without the benefit of creative compositive techniques. And our judges on this panel to start us off is Chris, Roxanne, Kelly, Hilary and Cam. And we're also going to be joined shortly by Claire and Adam. That's it. Who just snuck in at the end of the row coughing. Right. Okay, so first print, please. Thank you. And we have an average score of 68. And could I get Hilary to make a comment for some help for the photographer?
Yes, I think that the moment has just passed. I think if possibly the photographer separated the child from the background and had the wave splashing on the little baby's face, maybe that might have helped a slightly lower perspective, so you can actually see the baby's face. Slightly different time of day, maybe, just because it's a bit sort of bright and sunny. So,
thank you. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 68. Roxanne, could I get a comment for the photographer?
Sure. A couple of things to consider. When you're stepping up to the print, the subject is not in the face of the subject is not in focus. I think it's been shot at the wrong time of day. There's a really harsh light in the background that's just drawing your way. So, if there's potential to go back and re-examine at a different time of day, it's a bit of a missed opportunity, and also to look at the cropping with regards to bottom of the frame and positioning of the subject.
Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 72. And could I get, sorry, Hillary, could you make a comment to assist the photographer? Cam?
Yeah, really interesting subject, but I'm a bit confused about all the negative white space around. I think if that was all sort of brought in much tighter, it would have been a stronger image.
Thank you very much. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 75. And Roxy, yes, if you could give us a comment.
Just to provide some feedback, I think creatively as a portrait, it stands really strongly. I'm assuming this is and one should never assume, seafood chef perhaps. And it sits solidly. I really like the composition of it. The darkness in the top left-hand corner. I felt the portrait would have been much stronger had the whole figure, including his uniform, been in focus, but it's not. While his head is, the rest of it isn't.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 79, and as your scores are quite close together on this occasion, the score will be finalised at 79 as a single room judging. And we'd like some feedback though. Chris, could you give the entrant some pointers?
Yeah, this is a really strong portrait, and we've judged it pretty high in professional practice. Walking up to the print, those eyes are really red, and that becomes very dominant as you get close. I'd look a little closer at the handling of the skin tones on the hands as well.
Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. By majority, we have a score of 79. Hillary is going to challenge. So I've announced a majority. The average is 80, but there were 3 judges in the 70 range. Hillary's on 84, so she can challenge.
Yeah, I applaud the photographer for making this portrait because it's not a time that you possibly would consider making a portrait, but I think it's important socially, historically, to do stuff like this. I think the fact that she's obviously quite distorted from arthritis or what have you, with her hand, it's just unbelievably distorted. I can sense a feeling that she actually doesn't necessarily want to have her portrait taken, which is a bit of a conflict. That's why I gave it 84, not sort of any higher. But I think that the light's quite nice. The handling is quite subdued, which sort of goes with the mood of the actual portrait.
Thank you, Hilary. And could we hear from Kelly on 75?
Yeah, particularly hard to speak down to an image with this kind of context in terms of the subject. Compositionally, I just didn't feel that it was strong enough for a silver. I found the lighting quite disjointed. There's quite a strong magenta cast going on in the background. It could have been handled a bit better, perhaps even black and white, just to eliminate sort of those things would have helped me get it to a silver.
Thank you. And Roxanne's on 83.
I think in terms of, I agree, because I felt that disconnect from her as well, but this is actually a really powerful, emotional portrait of somebody who is either, lost in the realms of her own time and space. And when you start looking behind, there are so many details that have been, that are told in the story within that frame. And through that you can see the story of where she is and who she is. It's actually quite a heartbreaking portrayal of a person at that stage of life. And I think it's been beautifully captured in light of all the harshness of it as well. I think the harshness to me feels quite deliberate.
Thank you. Back to you, Hilary.
Yes, I have a feeling that, compositionally, yes, I think it's possibly not the best, but it's not the best situation. And I think she's possibly in hospital when you consider that she's got a blue thing behind her, which looks like something that you would actually pull the patients on. So maybe she's had an accident. Maybe she has actually, and I'm assuming all this, but she's obviously a very elderly lady. She's not connected with the photographer, but I think it's a very important portrait to portray people at any part of their life for a record.
Thank you. Hilary's score of 84 is locked in. The current score by majority is 79. Judges, please rescore now. And we have a silver award, 81. Thank you. Next print, please. Jog up if you're going to go and have a close look. We want to save time for our conversations about photography. Thank you. We have an average score of 68. Thank you. And looking for a comment from Chris. Thank you.
Yep, if you want to keep working a concept like this, I think the hero is the person, not the car, and the car is in focus, and the license plate is by far the thing you look at the most. You kind of lose the essence of the person behind it. So if you want to do this concept again, probably think about lighting them a little differently and making them the focus.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 78. And Chris would like to challenge. He's on 88. You've got a 78, 77, 75, 73. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chris, very much. It is, my apologies, it is an automatic challenge as Chris is 10 points away from the average. So you will only get one chance to speak, and then we will hear from Hillary and then back to Roxanne.
So this print has a lot of impact. I kind of sat for a little bit while everyone else hopped up to have a look, because the shapes, you can tell that it's two people, but the lines that they're making and the curves, it's really pleasing to the eye, and the negative space between all of their limbs is nice. When you get up and have a look, I think the skin tones have been handled well, and there's a range of skin tones, and you can see the darks where you need to see them. You can see some highlights. But then you start looking at the athleticism that went into making this image. Now, I'm assuming that they're I shouldn't assume, actually. The kind of the point of the lady's foot on the man's shoulder is beautiful and almost gentle, and there's so much strength in what they're doing that to create this shape and light it in a way that is pleasing and make this design, I think we should be rewarding this with something more than professional practice. To me, this is at least sitting in silver, if not getting up to silver distinction. So I don't get to talk again, but I'm hoping that I get some of you guys to come up with me.
We're going to hear from Hillary next on 73.
Thanks, Chris, for challenging. I gave it 73 because I was actually quite confronted by the image and the sort of the black and white, the yin. It's not even. Yes, I guess it could even be yin and yang. And I just felt that the pose was, in a way, sort of quite threatening and then I thought, well, actually, maybe this is what the actual photographer is actually trying to do here, to show something deeper than just shape and form. And so I'm actually going to go up.
Thank you. And could we hear from Roxanne?
I was really struck by the shape and the formation of the print. I think that it's a I'm trying to search for the right words here to give due credit to the photographer. And the more that Chris has spoken with regards to, I hadn't looked at the positioning of the limbs, I hadn't looked at the strategic positioning of her foot. I was very distracted by the highlights. I felt that there could have been a lot more control in the lighting exercised, which may have given, a better evenness with the skin tones. But I'm happy to listen to what things have to say. I would have liked to have seen more control for me to bring that up into a silver distinction. I'm not sure.
Thank you very much. So as it was an automatic challenge, you are all able to move your scores, having listened to the debate. The current average score is 78. Judges, please rescore now. And we have a silver award, 81. Thank you, and to keep you all happy and rotating, can we have Chris and Roxanne? Thank you, and Adam and Claire are coming in to join us. Thank you, and next sprint, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 73. And if we could have a comment from Kelly to help the photographer.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think the subject's actually not quite in focus. as one thing, and just watch the subjects in the background that are sort of coming off the edge of the frame as well, and paper choice. It's way too glossy, I think, but the subject's not quite sharp enough, so
Okay.
have a look at that.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you, judges, and thank you also to KL and Canson for sponsoring this category. We're judging the portrait category at the 2019 AIPP Epson Queensland Photography Awards. Thank you to our online audience for listening in and following this afternoon, and to our live audience here in the room for supporting us. And we have an average score of 72. Adam, could I get you to give some feedback to the entrant, please?
Sure. Look, a good setup here with potential, but there's a very cold cast through the image that doesn't match the lighting that we see sort of at the end of that leading line. And there's a tension also in the arms. I think that the pose isn't as natural as perhaps we want it to be. So maybe just a little bit of work there to bring up the idea.
Thank you very much. And next print, please. And while our judges are dashing up to the screen to have a look, the dinner on Monday night is at the East Leagues Club. There are still tickets available, and it's your big chance to get frocked up. What's the dress code, Tony? Black tie. Black tie. Tony Holden tells me it's black tie, so it will be, because, Hillary's going shopping on Monday because she's only just found out that the dinner is black tie. And we have an average score of 77. And Hillary, on that happy note, could you give the photographer some feedback to help them with their entry?
Yes, I think this is a great start to a portrait of the woman. I'm not sure the hand or the knee adds to the actual pose. I think possibly with all that gorgeous colour all over her body, she needs to have a more dynamic pose, possibly without her shorts. Who knows? Yeah.
Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 73. And Kelly, could I get you to make a comment, please?
Yeah, I think the message is a bit lost with me, I think. The connection to the subject. Perhaps, thank you, Adam.
Adam's going to make a comment as well.
The left, if I put my hand up and get rid of the right-hand part of the image, which is what I'm drawn to and what is the sharpest, the left-hand part of the image really starts asking questions. There's interesting light. There's a real question between the sort of lifestyle, home lifestyle, and the obviously not so home lifestyle it's presented. The right-hand side of the image, however, is so dominant that and adds very little to that story. I think there's possibilities here, but the right-hand side is what really pulls it down.
Thank you very much. And we're just going to have a blank screen for a moment. They're wanting to replace the paper in the printer. That's how you get your results, folks. That's really important stuff. All right. We might take Cam. Would you like a coffee break? Chris is going to come back and join us. Who else have I got there? Claire. So Hillary, where are you from?
Hello, I'm Hillary, and I live in Queanbeyan, which is in New South Wales, but it's on the border of at the ACT. So I'm actually an ACT member. I've been a member since 1997, and I was on the council for about 20 years, and
What do you photograph?
at the moment I'm photographing scrapbooks that are 100 years old, because I'm actually got a short contract at the National Library of Australia. So I'm actually using a nice Hasselblad H6 and it's sometimes the files are 2 gig in size, and so it's very boring, tedious. Oh no, it's actually a wonderful, wonderful job, and I'm so glad I've got the job.
Thank you. Well done, Hillary. And on that note, could we have the next print, please? Thank you. We have an average score of 78. And Claire, would you be able to make a comment for the entrant to give them some help?
Yeah, definitely. The colours in here, they're so pretty. I feel like this ballerina needs more space around her. I feel like she has so much more of a story that we could show. And I would love the photographer next time to give her more space and give her more area to move. If she's a dancer, I feel like she needs a lot more movement area.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. We have an average score of 67. And could we have a comment from Adam? Thank you.
Look, it's sharp in some places, maybe a little too sharp from the working, but I feel like the light doesn't travel as the light should throughout the frame. It's been forced into us, and there's not a flow of where that light is coming from. So perhaps the photographer could have a look at reworking so that they keep that natural flow of light throughout the frame and not so forceful and sort of presented.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Chris, can you just check your score came to me, please? Yep, thank you. Why don't I have any volume? Can you hear me? No. We don't have any volume. Mic. Hello? Okay.
Just making sure you're all aware.
So, okay, we might need the techie just to come back in and check that master volume might have got moved accidentally. Sorry. We didn't mean to press the red button, but we might have. Anyhow, we're back. Thank you. We have all the scores. The current average is 83. Adam would like to challenge. Thank you, Adam. Adam's on 88. You've got an 83, an 87, an 82, and a 75.
This image presents very strongly from back here. It's quite, the contrast is very strong. The highlights, the way the highlights and the shadows sort of interplay from a distance draw you in, and the eyes do that. Where I'm rewarded is in the detail of it. Like, there's almost like this doll-like quality, this perfect figure. And I guess it could be related to, like, this is the parent's perfect doll-like child, but you can, and the skin is so, there's so much detail, but smoothness yet detail, but you can obviously see they're broken, and it's very subtle because there's the hospital band and there's the bandage for where their long-term sort of illness goes. This is where the hurt happens, but it's just sort of thrown into the bottom little corner. It's not even where you're looking, because all you're looking at is those eyes and sort of this determination, like, I am the perfect child. I'm a little bit broken, but I'm through this. And it's so simply presented in its technical way, and it's also in its this gaze that gets you. That I really think it's a superior piece of communication that we're seeing here.
Thank you very much. And could we hear from Chris on 75?
Yep, I was down the other end of the scale. I had some professional practice. You mentioned the eyes, and the eyes do pull you in. To me, they've been a little possibly overhandled. So as you get in close, they almost look unreal, and maybe that's how it was photographed. But for me, I found that disturbing. You mentioned there was sort of detail and softness in the skin. I found the skin really soft and possibly also overhandled. So I think I appreciate what you're saying about it being it's the doll-like figure as well as being this real person. And I hadn't seen the hospital band before. I'd seen the bandage, but not the hospital band. So you're helping to explain it. I think I want to hear a little bit more about the handling of the skin to make sure that it's all right, but I'm listening.
And Cam on 83?
Yeah, I read a little different story into this. This style of lighting is very common for those strong sports portraits. So I saw this as a young child who wants desperately to be out there playing sport with his mates, but instead he's in hospital. But he's defiant, he's going to get through it, he's going to get back out there onto the field with his mates. That part of the image I got a really strong connection with. Whereas technically there are some little issues which stop me going any higher. The lighting for me wraps a little bit too far around that rim lighting to light the nose a little bit too much. If that rim lighting or side lighting was just a little bit further back and we had a tiny little bit more front lighting to really give that strong detail in the eyes, I would have been right up there.
Thank you. Back to you, Adam.
Yeah, to address the issues, I defy you to get up and have another look. Have a look around the arms, around that bandage. I can see every hair on that arm, so I don't think it's been overworked, but I think there's a deliberate way of lighting it to give that real sheen surface that sort of, gives that. I'm absolutely with you as well, Cam. That's another aspect, and it's great that it speaks to another storyline that we can have through that. I think the lighting matches where the highlights are in the eyes. So, and as whether that sort of luminescence again in that sort of colour that's coming through there is a byproduct of that, I think it all still supports that very strong story. I would probably agree with you again that I would be in gold if there was a few little sort of changes around here, but I still think it's a very strong piece of communication that speaks to a lot of different stories, and I think silver distinction.
Thank you. Adam's score of 88 is locked in. The current average score is 83. Judges, please rescore now. And it goes to 86, silver with distinction. Thank you, team. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 76. And Chris would like to challenge. Chris is on 82. We're going to have some interesting conversation. We've got a 77, 76, 75 and a 68.
This should be fun. So on first impression, this looks like an empty space, and you can kind of tell from a distance there's a chair, and you get the impression there's an environment. You walk up, and it does speak to a sense of place. But then you see through the window, and you see the people that are out there, and they're crisp, and they're clean, and they're the man who's turned to face the camera is kind of, hey, what are you doing? You know, there's a story being told here. Maybe these guys are on their break from working in this business. Maybe they're waiting for it to open. The picture in a picture is one of the elements I really love about this. That there are two photographs here. There's a composition we appreciate back here, and there's the one that we see when we get up closer. So from that point of view, I really enjoyed it, and I think it's a good portrait of that group. I'd like to hear some more about it.
Thank you. Adam on 68 at the opposite end of the scale.
Yeah, look, with respect, I can see what you're describing, and whether it's a window or a mirror or something. You say that there's two pictures in here, but the majority of what I see is out of focus, muddy, and doesn't add. It only adds very small elements of a story for me that I'm not connected to when I get outside. I don't see the connection. You know, are they here? Or they just happen to be in that reflection? There's no connection between the two, what I see on the right and what I see on the left. So I don't feel like it successfully communicates anything to me about the people that I see in the frame. I can sort of take a leap and maybe make some assumptions, but I don't really want to do that. I want to be connected, and I want it to be informed, and I just don't think I am.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah, I've got to agree with you. I think, Adam, there. I just feel like, as well, if compositionally, if the photographer had moved a bit across to the right and get rid of that sort of lazy sort of frame down on the left-hand side, and just sort of cropped in a little bit more, I think, because you're right, there's just too much else that's going on that's very, very muddy, not being printed particularly well, and doesn't really add to the atmosphere of the room, I think.
Thank you. Chris, back to you.
So there are some things compositionally that I know we can improve, and I think this image, it could go up from where it is if there were some different choices made in the framing. As far as the foreground being out of focus, I think it needs that. I think you need to have the contrast between what hits us back here. When you get up close to it and you go, okay, cool, this is what the photographer wants us to pay attention to. Now, I think it's, we talked about assuming what those people in the image are. I think it's our job as viewers to build a story around this. I'm really comfortable in my head deciding that one of those guys works here, and those are his kids, and you can make up whatever story you want. And so for me, I build that connection. I still see it as particularly that bit in the corner as the engaging portrait, and hopefully we can get a couple more points for the photographer, but I'd love to see you guys moving up a little bit.
Thank you. Chris's score of 82 is locked in. The current average is 76. Judges, please rescore now. And it does go from 76 to 77. There you are. Good conversation. Thank you, team. Next print, please. And while the judges are looking at this image, just to let our audience know that every point is important, and sometimes categories are won because of 1 point. So you do need a minimum score of 320 points across your 4 photos within one category to be eligible to be a finalist. And the top 3 highest scores in those categories are then assessed to become the Photographer of the Year in that category. So 1 point, believe me, I've missed out by 1 point. I know what it feels like. Thank you. Our average score is 67. And could we hear from Hillary to give some feedback to the entrant?
Nice mullet. I think it's a little bit too tightly cropped. I also think it sort of looks like flash on camera, maybe, and there's nothing in the background to give me any sort of context. So maybe it's slightly different lighting, a little bit more lighting in the background, open up the crop a bit, and you might have something that's a bit better than that.
Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 77. Claire would like to challenge. Claire's on 82. You're working with 78, 77, 75, 73.
Okay, as soon as I saw this, I just thought he just reminds me of one of those little dolls that you just want to tickle, those little characters. All I can see is humour, and it's an original photo that I haven't seen like this before. I love the empty space around him. The expression on his face, you can even, down to his chest, you can even see like little white chest hairs poking through. It's just quirky, and he looks like a character to me, and that kind of portrait is quite appealing.
Thank you, Claire. We might hear from Kelly on 73.
Yeah, agree with strong character to photograph. Technically, there's just a lot happening that's not quite there for a silver award. The fall off and this sort of really black hole in the bottom of that frame. Going with the high key kind of thing maybe, but just that sort of fall off is way too drastic, and I think there's just too much top heavy for me, too much negative space at the top as well.
Thank you. And anyone else with anything to add? Otherwise, we'll go back to... Oh, sorry, Hillary, you had something to add?
I was toing and froing on this. To me, I'm assuming that the man is Japanese. There's a certain minimalist thing happening here, so I quite find that quite appealing. It sort of lends itself to, I think it's a Helmut Newton or maybe a David Bailey or something like that. So, but then I sort of think, well, maybe I need to see the 4-5 edge on it, So maybe a square might not work. But I think the dark area sort of anchors the man to the frame, and I find the use of negative space actually quite appealing. So I gave it a 78.
Thank you. And Adam, did you want to make a quick comment?
Just quickly, I think we're all drawn, the one place we're all drawn is to the face. But rather than anchor it, I find, like you said, the fall off, especially when you've got such a constant background, the fall off distracts me away from it. All I want to see is that face. And I find the other elements don't support that within it. And that's where I'm agreeing with Kelly. I think rather than anchor, it's just a distraction for me.
Thank you. Back to you, Claire.
Yeah, I can hear what you're saying about the bottom of the image. I think when I come back to it, all I can see is this really happy man right in the middle, and I think the space works really well around him. And I'm just encouraging you guys to look for the unique photo in this and the quirky expression, and come up a few more points, please.
Thank you. Claire's score of 82 is locked in. The current average is 77. Judges, please rescore now. And it does go to 78. Thank you. And could we have Cam for Chris Anderson? Thank you, just to keep you all rotating. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have a score of 76, very close together, 75, 76, 77. And a comment, Kelly, thank you.
Yeah, again, size, just consider maybe a smaller print of this. There's also, if you can get into the print quality, there's something happening on the right shadow of her cheek, whether it's, I won't go as far as saying banding, but there's some sort of weird colour cast coming through that shadow there. So it's just it's finessing. For some, I can't even say the word. Metabolism. Thank you. But just it's a very, very simple portrait, so you just need to pay particular attention to the smaller things.
Thank you very much. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 73. And could we have a comment, please? Cam.
Yeah, great subject, but probably the image is let down a little bit by the contrasting background, which takes some attention away, and also just the positioning of the hand facing straight back to the camera would work a lot better if it was just turned to the side a little bit more to avoid distraction.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. And just to also thank our sponsor for this category is KL Canson. We appreciate your support of our industry and particularly this portrait category. Thank you. We have an average score of 77 and you're all quite close together, so that will be finalised. Adam, a comment from you for the photographer?
Look, there's a bit of classic old style lighting here that it's at the top of the frame, which I'm really drawn to. But there's something going on that front leg that really I'm instantly drawn. And whether it's the way the light's caught it or something in post, that's the point that I'm drawn to, and I just can't get away from it, unfortunately. So maybe have a look there and see what can be done.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 67. And we're going to get a comment from Hillary, please.
Yeah, this could be a wonderfully powerful portrait, but I think we need to have a bit more context. Because I'm not sure whether that's smudged makeup because she's been crying, or whether there's bruises on her hands. Is it a comment on domestic violence? There's a funny sort of white thing happening in the top left-hand corner, and the highlights there that bring my eye away from that. So I think it's an interesting subject to explore, and I would definitely tell the photographer to have another go, if possible.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 71. And looking for a comment from Cam. Could you give some feedback to the entrant, please?
Yeah, professional practice. I'm sure if it was a client image, they'd be pretty happy with it. But to get it up into that award standard, we need to be seeing a lot more from the photographer's input, and that in terms of lighting and positioning, posing, things like that, which could really bring it up more.
Thank you, Cam. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 78. Hillary would like to challenge. Yes, Hillary is on 84. You've got a 78, 77, 77, 76.
I think having the model dressed in that leather or plastic or whatever it is jacket, so that it's able to reflect all the different colours, is actually quite a clever thing. I like all the different colours that are happening there, and I think I'm sort of there's a couple of little shadows that probably need to be gotten rid of on her arm or what have you. But I think that and maybe her hair. But I think that it's handled well, and it's quite different and colourful, and yeah, so she should be awarded a silver, please.
Thank you. Adam on 77.
Oh, there we go. I feel like in these type of portraits, the technical aspects have to be handled really, really well, and that goes with the posing. The hand at the top, not only does it sort of, it's got that the middle finger is out there. The issue it's causing is it's casting the shadow straight over the top of her face, which just draws me away from her eyes every time. And it's just generally, for a dynamic light that we do see reflected there throughout the scene, it's not matched, I don't believe, in the pose. I feel like it's a little static in its presentation. I just think it needs to be elevated. Those things need to be up to get us into that silver range.
Thank you. And could we hear from Cam?
Yeah, just echoing Adam's points that I find the arm up distracting from her face, and you really need to look at every little detail for these type of shots. And I found that little bit of hair that's sort of sitting on the jacket and pointing out to the side there a bit distracting as well. So it's those sort of things. You know, it's almost a commercial image, so we need to be sort of treating it that way in terms of posing and lighting and all those little details.
Thank you. Back to you, Hilary.
No, I'm fine, thanks. Yeah, I concur.
Okay, thank you. Hilary's score of 84 is locked in. The current average score is 78. Judges, please rescore now. And it stays at 78. I'm sure the entrant got some good feedback though. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 69. Thank you. And yes, Adam, to give some feedback.
A few things with this. I think the paper choice, it doesn't help the tones that we're being presented with here. It's very, very flat, and if that's the lighting you want to use, I'd say the paper choice doesn't really show that off. Also, in this kind of illustrative kind of thing, I think again we're talking about not having to sort of force feed it down our throat. So maybe the sign blocks off part of the image rather than enhances it. So just think about those sort of things in the presentation.
Thank you very much. And that is the end of this section. And we are going to be moving very quickly into the portrait open section. So my very capable assistant is going to zoom around with a tea and coffee orders for you. And then now does any judge want to have a little break? We've got 2 reserve judges ready to rotate in. If you, Claire. Yep. So Chris is going to hop out. Claire's going out. You can Thank you, judges. Thank you for your patience. Hope you got to stand up and turn around 3 times. We are continuing with the portrait category, sponsored by KL Canson. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. The portrait category we are moving into now is open, and entrants may utilize all post-production techniques, including multiple images or elements, in producing their entry. So portrait photography is broadly defined and can include family, corporate, travel, creative and interpretive portraits. Entries into this category will be judged broadly based on content, impact and professional quality. Judges will be asked to consider portraiture in its broadest context. It was in 2 categories and this is now the portrait open category. Please have the first print. Have a blank screen, please. Can we have a blank screen, please? We have the wrong image on my screen. That does not match the photograph that came around. Can someone please check? Claire, can you stay there, please? And Chris, you can just sit down for a minute, thanks. Right, so we just have a little gremlin in the system, but I'm sure the very capable people out the back will sort that out. There's about 17 things that we've got to keep an eye on at any one time. That's why I need an assistant. He's doing a great job, Tony, thank you. Being a panel chair is quite challenging. I don't know if you know that we, the chairman of jurors, oh, hang on, we've got the print back. Okay, so we have a different print for you to assess. And Claire, I'm going to ask you to stay. No, stay. Can you please? You can't stay. Faru, could we have you to judge, please? Thank you. Welcome to the panel. So please give your full undivided attention to this portrait in front of us. Thank you. So we have an average score of 79. The scores are quite close together within a 5-point score range, so it will be finalised at that. There is only 1 room judging, so it won't go for review. And could we please get a comment from Kelly or Hillary? Sure.
You know, I think it's a fantastic image a fantastic way to use these two doors. I think it's a little bit too literal. I think it's quite shocking seeing someone actually being sick, whether that's actually what she's actually doing or whether it's been done to look like she's been sick. I don't think we need the table with the magazines or the thing on the bottom. It's too literal, and I think that if the photographer's listening or whatever, that maybe if we had just removed those elements, then you'd have a far stronger image.
Thank you, Hillary. And can we have the next print, please? Thank you. We have an average score of 76. You're all quite close together. And could we have a comment, please, from Cam?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, great subject. I just think lighting's a little bit flat, and we've got a very obvious vignette in the background there, which is a bit distracting. What I really did love was the texture in his arms, kind of almost replicated in the desk or whatever it is that he's leaning on, which was quite cool. But yeah, a little bit more finesse in the lighting would have taken us up a bit.
Thank you. And could we have the next print, please? Thank you. We have an average score of 76. Thank you. All quite close together. And Roxanne, would you give us a comment, please?
Sure. I think this is one of those images that there was potential. The tonality I'm really enjoying. I found initially quite distracted by the table at the front. I felt cropping that up, that space in front wasn't completely necessary. But I was really looking and looking and looking for some details to give me a bit more of the who, the what, the where, a little bit more of the personality, a little bit more of the character. And it's such a great situation for her to be positioned with him, but I think there needed to be more delivered to bring it up into the award range.
Thank you very much. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 81, silver award. Thank you very much. And judges, you can go back to whose chairs you belong to. Thank you. Oh, it's a bit of shuffling going on here. That's great. Thank you so much for doing that. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 76. Thank you. And Kelly, yes, a comment, please.
Yeah, look, I think when faced with some pretty unique environments and you have a beautiful subject and there's just a lot of things going in your favour, just and you have the time, just think of it. The pose is really quite static, and for me, it needs a bit more life, a bit more personality in it. So, if that could be assessed and looked at, and just giving it some sort of movement and flow, that really would have helped get it up a bit higher.
Thank you very much. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 76. And Roxanne would like to challenge. Roxanne's on 83. We've got a 78, 77, 76 and a 68.
This is going to be one of those images that I'm just going to try and talk about without bursting into tears, because as the mother of a teenage boy and a preteen boy, there's so much power in him. Oh my God, she's going already. There's a real naivety about this boy that's been captured. I think it's really deliberate that he's out of focus. I think, when you're reading all those messages, those are the things that these boys see and fear. And I think it's a really beautiful, powerful image that is a concept that's been really well delivered by the photographer. And I don't know where everybody else is sitting, but to deliver the rest of it, I think there's really something in there. I think there's something that we should be acknowledging. I do believe that this is a Silver Award image for the power of the concept alone.
Thank you. And Cameron didn't see it quite as you did. 68.
And I definitely got the same message, and I do reward the photographer for bringing that message across. But, we are talking about professional photography awards, and I didn't necessarily see any great photographic expertise coming through in the image. There's literally no lighting applied. It's just available light and not very good available light. I think to take it up when we're talking into, especially into silver category, we need to be looking at those photographic aspects technically as well as conceptually. And for me, it just sort of fell down in that area. But I do reward the photographer for bringing us such a strong message.
Thank you. And Faru, did you have a comment to add?
I know, Roxanne, what you are coming from. I really appreciate just bringing up the bullying, which is a very these days issue about the teenager in the school or everywhere. But when you just narrow down your eyes, the only thing you can see just the t-shirt, the white t-shirt of the boy, and you couldn't see even the faces, and it just take your eyes and your mind from the narrative, the message, the story, and just keep it there. It's a t-shirt, it's a white t-shirt.
Thank you. Back to you, Roxanne.
I think that's all very deliberate. I think I'm seeing it as flat because it is dark and it's a really depressing picture, and it's designed to be a really depressing picture. It's, young boys and men and when they're going through this, it is a muted, blurred, dark and dreary time. And I actually believe that the lighting is actually very quite deliberate, and henceforth why I believe it needs to be acknowledged as a silver.
Thank you. Roxanne's score of 83 is locked in. The current average is 76. Judges, please rescore now. Thank you. And we have an average of 77. It does get one more point, so worth the conversation. And I'm sure the photographer has got some good feedback. Thank you. We're going to keep our panel juggling around. So Faru and Cam, if we could have Chris and Adam back, please. Thank you so much. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 75. And Adam would like to challenge on 83. And you've got a 74, 73, 73, 72.
It's a simple portrait. From back here, it looks. But as I get up, the expression is so stark and you can almost see it glistening in his eyes. Technically, we're handling a very simple subject again, really well. You know, the light moves across the face in that nice Rembrandt style, showing us exactly what we need to see and nothing else. And even in the styling of the photo, the way that these collar sits mirrors that sort of light and mirrors that shapes that you see in the face. And there's just a vulnerability. That's almost like a breaking point that we're just about to see here, and the photographer has captured that in a very simple, very stark presentation, and I think definitely deserves rewarding into a low silver, and certainly for a few more points of high professional practice.
Thank you. And could we hear from Chris?
Thanks for challenging it up, Adam. I guess I got a different take on it. I kind of took his expression as being really vacant. Like, if you're photographing a portrait of someone, I want to have a connection with them, and I'm not getting is almost that lack of emotion. I don't. It's not a positive for me. It draws it down a little bit. I think the way it's been printed, perhaps paper choice brings all this cool tone through it that I don't think does the subject favors as far as skin tone goes. And there's a few little technical bits, like just around the top where his forehead meets his hair, there's a little bright spot, and there's a wrinkle here that takes you away. I guess I'm not connecting with it in the way that I need to really see this rewarded as a silver print. I agree that the shadows have been handled pretty well around the head and everything, so you get that form, but I want to have more connection with this as a print, so I'm interested to hear more about it.
Thank you. Hilary, something to add? No. So back to you, Adam.
No, look, and I mean, this print will obviously speak different things to different people, and that's fine. What I get is, and maybe as you say, vacant, as I said, maybe it's that holding back of that, it's not wanting to show that emotion. I think the tone enhances that mood. I don't think I'm probably struggling to get this to a silver, but I still think there are elements of this that deserve a high professional practice, and just maybe consider a few more points for it. I think it sits a little bit higher than right in the middle of the range.
Thank you. Adam's score of 83 is locked in. The current average is 75. Judges, please rescore now. And it does go up, as you asked, to 77. Thank you very much. Next print, please. Okay, sorry. Can we have a blank screen, please? Thank you. We just have to do a little juggling. We'll just get Gary. Just 1 second. Sit down for a second. Thank you. Have a little break, or stand up for a second if you want, as the case may be. So, who's going to the dinner on Monday night? Oh, yay, everyone. Nice. I'm going too. But you're not wearing black tie. Kelly, what can I say? You can wear black. No, not a tie. Um, that's okay. And so there are tickets still available if you'd like to join us and share all the fun. Thank you. Thank you very much. We've resolved our technical issue here. And could we please have the print back? Thank you. We're judging the portrait open category. Thank you, judges. We have an average score of 89, silver with distinction. Thank you. And Adam would like to challenge. Adam is on 93. You've got some company on 91, 88, 87 and 85. So Adam, over to you.
Let's get the obvious stuff out of the way. This is a superb print. The detail that's being held in the blacks and the shadows lets us see right down into the background. Yet, we see all that detail. Yet it's dark and it's mysterious, and it's been so well presented on the print. And what we see, this lone figure that sort of just pops out of this darkness, it's like is like this ray of light. Yet there's such sadness, and there's such strength, and there's such devotion, and I get all these emotions. It makes me, and you have to look. I'm not convinced that I can see the tear, but every now and again I see it, and then every again I don't. But I'm not sure. There's marks there, and whether that's there or not, it doesn't really matter, because I still get this sense of, I'm not sure where I'm supposed to believe. And I think it's just a marvellous sort of metaphor for where we're at, is that us not understanding this culture, that's suddenly being thrust into the limelight, and through no fault of their own, and maybe through no fault of this woman, there's a despair, but it's just, I could talk adjectives for days on it, but it's just absolutely beautiful and golden, and I think that's where it should sit, at the very least.
Thank you, Adam. We're going to hear from Kelly on 85. Oh, sorry, what's that? No, we needed a comment from you. You've given this print a score of 85. We'd like to hear from you, please.
It challenged me, I'll admit that. I really am going to struggle to try and disagree with anything that you've said, and that's why I did want to sit with it a little bit longer. I think there were elements of it that was just a little bit too forced into my face, and that's why I think held back a little bit. But you are dead right in the way it's been handled is really, really quite exquisite. Yeah, that's why I gave it a silver distinction and not a gold. Just, it's a very, very simple. It's very powerful in its visual communication, but the simple elements for me were just a little bit too in my face.
Thank you. Hillary on 91.
Thanks, Adam. I think this is her multiplied by whatever, and obviously her religion, her culture, and what have you. At first I was wondering why one of them you could just see the hair on one of them just behind her head, but I think that's sort of her hesitating to turn towards something that possibly that she doesn't know, and she's still torn between something that she's always known. So I think that it's beautifully printed, and thank you for challenging.
Thank you. Any other comments to add, or otherwise we'll go back to Adam. Back to you, Adam.
Purely on a print, we're at print awards, and purely on a print presentation level, this does not lose, or gain any false markers in what we're looking at here. It hits you so hard in the chest, but yet it's not literal. You could read 1,000 stories into this. Is it hesitation? Is it reverence? Is it sadness? Is it a will against something? It's got so many meanings, but that expression just reaches in and grabs your heart, and everything around it technically and compositionally supports that notion. I kind of wish I had gone up, but I'm quite happy. Please come up into gold for it.
Thank you. The Adams score of 93 is locked in. The current average is 89. Judges, please rescore now. And we have a gold award, 92. Thank you. Francis, can you stay where you are? Yep. Is that right? Thank.
Oh, we've got a mess? Okay.
Thank you. Next print, please. And Francis, thank you. Thank you. We have an average score of 75. Francis, yes, so it's on 80. And you've got a 77, 75, 71, 70.
Look, I found that quite a, first of all, very interesting composition of the image. I like the color palette. I put it in the silver range. The only thing I probably would be adjusting is the feet looked a little bit uncomfortable there. They look a bit stretched and uncomfortable. And if that could be relaxed, I think it falls in quite nicely. There's a nice flow in the body shape towards the gramophone. It sort of flows nicely. I can see my eyes go from the left right through the image up to the left hand corner. Yeah, look, I think it's a nice idea. It's quite innovative, and I put it in the silver range for that.
We're going to go to Hillary next on 70.
You mentioned one word, uncomfortable, and I felt that she looked uncomfortable for her whole pose, and she looked cold, and so and the palette is actually quite cold as well, so that's why I gave it 70. And I think it has elements of professional practice. I can't go any higher.
Thank you. And Adam on 77.
I'm not sure if I'm going to unintentionally help or hinder the argument here, but the only part of the story that I actually connected with was the feet. It looks like a ballet like an old ballet dancer, but then the rest of the I don't get the rest of the photo to go with that, and that's the kind of disconnect that I had with the image. But that's the bit that I actually focused on, and so I thought maybe that's what I'm looking at.
Thank you. Back to you, Francis.
Absolutely, I get that, and actually I'm glad you mentioned that, because I can actually see more now in the image, like a possibly retired dancer who still is able to, you do see the long work they have done in their feet. Eventually, after many years, she's still trying to point these feet, but she's still listening to the music. She's trying to perform, but probably doesn't quite get it together anymore. Therefore, the colder tone of the image, I think, works quite well, because it's probably the end of her dancing career that she's trying to come to terms to. So the cold tone and all that, the slightly uncomfortable pose, for me, works quite well.
Thank you. Francis's score of 80 is locked in. The current average is 75. Judges, please rescore now. So Kelly and Hillary, can you just re-enter your scores, please? No, that was the other room asking for a blank screen, not us. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. We have all the scores now, and it does go up 1 point to 76. Thank you. Good discussion, and hopefully the entrant has received some valuable information. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 76. Hillary, yes. Counting, it's 7 points away. Hillary is on 83 and would like to challenge. You've got a 77, 74, 73, 72.
So this woman's in a box in a warehouse. I don't quite understand what that is, but then I thought it was sort of like a Jack in the Box, or it's some sort of weird, perverted sort of person that's kept away and for weird things. And anyway, but I think I quite like the way that she's lit. I don't know how she's got so many tattoos. I could never do that. But so I think there's some sort of weird, bizarre, burlesque sort of thing happening here, and I think as possibly a portrait of someone who does that sort of stuff, I think it's quite effective.
Thank you. And Adam on 72.
I guess the issue that I have with is the kind of I thinks and I'm not sures because I can't see the context of what's around. It's been printed down so dark, and there is still elements of detail there, so it's not kind of whole black, but I still can't resolve what it is I'm actually looking at around. Yes, I can kind of make out the container, but I don't get what context that is coming into, and that's what I need. I need that extra piece of information. The light on her is nice and well professionally done, but that's as far as I can resolve it.
Thank you. And Francis, something to add?
Yeah, I'm a bit the same like Adam. I don't really see the connection between. Obviously, she's in a box. I sort of my interpretation was it could be even a photo boot. But for me, in a way, it looks like two different images for me because she's lit so strongly, and then the rest is very dark and doesn't give me enough information. So I just can't follow the story all the way.
Thank you. Back to you, Hilary.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think there's something about the bizarre nature of her in a box with with all the tattoos, and there's something sort of quite not sinister is not the right word. I can't think, but it's not sinister. That has a sort of sexual overtone, but weird and sort of dark as well. So that's why I thought that it seemed. Well, it provoked something in me.
Thank you. Hilary's score of 83 is locked in, and the average score is 76. Judges, please rescore now. And the score does stay at 76. Thank you. Now, Kelly and Hilary, you've been here for... No, you're fine. You're fine. Can I have Mark, please? And Farouk, can you join us as well? And ladies, can you just go for... Yeah, and come straight back. That would be really super duper. Thank you very much. And next print, please. Farouk, can we just get your score, please? Thank you. And we have an average score of 76. Very close together. 3 77s, a 76 and a 74. Roxanne, could we get a comment for you from...
I think this is a case of a missed opportunity because what a fabulous subject that you've got sitting there waiting. The thing that really held me back was those highlights on her face. They're distracting and really taking away from what potentially could otherwise have been a really beautiful portrait.
Thank you very much. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 81, silver award. Thank you. And a comment, please, from Adam. Thank you.
Yeah, the simple portraits are often the hardest ones to make because they're believable and they've got this real sort of natural feel that's, and this is what this has in spades. It just feels like a moment in time captured that represents all the lovely little elements of her life. So yeah, beautifully captured.
Thank you. And we're going to continue to rotate our judges. So Roxanne, thank you very much. And Adam's coming in to give you a little break. Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 81, silver award. All the judges are quite close together, so we will get a comment from, who haven't we heard? Mark, could you give us a comment, please?
Yep, so I've stored this at 81. It's a great little story that we've got here, lots of little elements to show that the Dodd is the number one in their life, with the wallpaper and the prints and the other prints on the wall and the Dodd, the bottle of wine, and there's just so much little story there. So congratulations to the photographer.
Thank you. Francis wanted to add a comment.
Absolutely agree. Gorgeous image. I think it could even actually be improved just to work a little bit on the tone of the sheet of the bed and just bring that out a little bit more and just work on these tones a little bit more. But gorgeous image.
And Adam wants to add one quick comment.
And really quickly, if it's going for tab, don't over-egg the souffle. It's the story's there. We don't try and push it any further down our throat. It's wonderful, sort of where it is.
Thank you. And yes, we are one more. Thank you. And next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 76. And yeah, Adam, thank you. A comment.
The lighting choice, obviously, to try and show shape within the image, which is a good choice, but it's about how we control that light to show what we want to do. Is it the form? Is it the face? And make sure that light and points us to there and we don't get the shadows or anything that distract us from seeing what we ultimately want to resolve in that image.
Thank you very much. And Faru, thank you. Kelly's going to come back and join us. Our interstate judges, we're working them very hard. We're going to keep them on the ball. She's even just going to stand right at the screen. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 84, silver award. And could we have a comment from Cam?
Yeah, really well crafted image. But there's a couple of little things that stopped me from going any higher, and one of those was just the wardrobe. It looks like the little girl's wearing some like blue leggings, which don't really fit with the rest of the wardrobe. So it's little attention detail like that, which, given the craft of the image, I would have expected to, take it to the next level.
Thank you. Mark, a brief comment to add?
Very brief comment. I'm an 84. It's just too clean for someone coming off a boat with all that dirt and all that grit and with the kind of luggage and with the shipwrecks in the background and the kind of treasure chest on the right-hand side and that grittiness. They're just too polished, but beautiful image.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 74. And looking for a comment. Thank you, Adam.
Yeah, look, I mean, I find the tone a little cold throughout the print, and whether that's meant to reflect the mood, I don't know the intensity and the sort of gaze that's there. It's very, very simply lit, I just feel like a few things could be done to lift it up technically, wise in the lighting and in the presentation.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 74. And we would like to hear from Kelly.
I'm interested by the concept. I think it just hasn't been executed quite so well. The print choice for me really let it down, and I just think it's just way too busy in all the wrong ways. But interesting concept. If you just want to fool around with a few other sort of placement areas, there's potentially something in there.
And a couple of other judges nodding in agreement. Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. And this print scores 71. And a comment from Kelly. They all want to say something.
Oh, again, interesting concept. There's something really almost magical in there, but when you can see the rippling in the really glossy sort of paper, a few just sort of tonality is just very, very flat, but I'm interested by the portrait. I'm interested by the concept. It just needs a bit more love.
Okay, thank you. And Adam, you've been on for a little while. We're going to give you a break as well. Hillary's coming back. Oh, Thank you very much. Next print, please. Thank you, judges. We have an average score of 76. And a comment from Mark, please.
Yeah, so this I saw this 78. It's just a little bit too clean. His expression and a little bit, the lighting's a bit flat, so a little bit more mood. It's nice and sharp, which is great. But in terms of for a rugged army man, it's a bit too clean capture.
Thank you. Next print, please. Thank you. By majority, we have a score of 79. I'm saying by majority, the average score is 80, but 3 of you are sitting in the 70s score range, so it is a team decision. And as you are all quite close together, no one can challenge. So, but we will look for a comment from Kelly, please.
Again, another really good concept. I think it just so much in the level of detail. There's parts that are really sort of falling off and not quite sharp. I think the colour is sort of grating a bit with certain things for my eye, and I think compositionally it just feels a little bit out of whack, out of balance. But there's a few things in there that actually can be changed with what you've already got. So work with that. If you do have the opportunity to get this into APA, change a few of those things, because I think you'll find that it might actually do quite well.
Thank you. Mark, you had a comment to add? No, same. All right, thank you. Next print, please. We have an average score of 64. And we would like some feedback for the entrant. Hilary, could you give us give the entrant some advice?
Yeah, I think there's an interesting concept trying to be explored. It's a bit too contrasty. There's quite a heavy vignette at the top. The pose on the woman isn't particularly. She needs to bend her elbow or something like that. Not quite sure what the flowers mean, but so it might look better if it's shot at and when it's dark or something, and using a side light or something to enhance it.
Thank you very much. Next print, please. scores, please, judges. Thank you. We have an average score of 87, silver with distinction. Thank you. And we'll get comment for the entrant, Cam. Adam's going to contribute.
I'm almost a bit disappointed we didn't have a talk about this, because I think we could talk for quite a while. There's so many elements in here that leave more questions than answers, and I guess why I was below the silver with distinction is I just couldn't make a contiguous story out of what I'm seeing here, even if it's just the light on the left-hand figure compared to the middle figure. Just the little differences there. It's a little, I feel like it's a little heavy on the left-hand side. I get the mirror image in the middle, and that's kind of what draws me to this image. But perhaps going forward, maybe a way it could be explained a little better in the narrative might even help more people to bring it up. But certainly, there's a very strong story that you can make of what you will in the middle there.
Thank you very much, Adam. Next print, please. Thank you. We have a by majority score of 79. And Kelly would like to challenge on 87. Kelly, you're working with an 83, a 78, 77, and 76.
Pretty for me, it's excellent showing us in really strong visual communication. We have this sort of subject in the middle that is perhaps mid to late teenage sort of years, and they're right in the thick of this gaming war, and what he doesn't realise is like he's in it, and it's happening all around him, and these dark subjects in the background are all part of this sort of Star Wars-y sort of theme coming through. Just the little pockets of red picking up, it's sort of shows anger, and you can see in his face he's just so mesmerised by this horrible world. A good, really strong, social commentary of I've got a kid about the same age. It doesn't quite do this, but it's a bit frightening. It's quite scary, and I like its dark and moody sort of tone to it. I did give it silver distinction, but a couple of points to nudge it into silver for its representation of some pretty strong commentary in today's world.
Thank you. Hilary on 76.
Yeah, I think I was wrong, and I actually quite liked all the laser beams are hitting him, and the lights from the I guess so. It's gaming, but I think boys that age don't necessarily play Star Wars or whatever. They normally play like Fortnite and that other really bad one, and so that's the only thing that I think that it's executed quite well. But I'm just thinking that the characters behind need to be someone like they see in Fortnite and those other games.
Thank you. And Adam?
Check 1, 2. I don't think we need to sort of impose what sort of figures. I think the idea is given by what they're. The danger bit is what I don't get, because all around it feels very static for something that's supposed to be very attacking. Like even the pose of the ominous character on the right feels very stiff, and every time I go back to that character, I'm more drawn to his forearm than I am to his face, and that technically is what kind of drew me away. I do like the idea of the story. Probably could come up to a silver just for the concept, but I think it's lacking some real technical oomph to get it up.
And just sorry. Yep.
Thank you. We'll just go to Mark for a brief comment.
Brief comment. The story's all there. It's just the light behind is just way too bright. It's too bright, and it's just not believable. So, like what you were saying, the story's there. Just make it more believable with the man and with the light behind, and darken it down, and get a little bit more kind of grunginess about it. And I think it'll go well.
Thank you. We're going to go back to Kelly.
There is so much believability in this image. Even if you just look at the lights behind, it's sort of like that sort of interrogation sort of spotlight, like it's all on you and this dark sort of figure with this red saw as it's dangerous, and it's not a really pleasant world. But the kicker, like the energy drink, this bright red Powerade energy drink to get this kid through all this crap, it's just rubbish. And it's just all over the floor. It's dusty and murky and gross, and it's just a horrible. I would not want my kid to be in that all the time. And I don't feel it's contrived at all. I really, really believe it. So, yeah, let's see how we can go.
Thank you. So Kelly's score of 87 is locked in, and the majority score was 79. Judges, please rescore now. And we have a silver award, 82. Good teamwork. Thank you. Next sprint, please. Thank you. We have an average score of 76. Thank you. And could I get a comment from Cam?
Yeah, I gave it good professional practice, which I think is where it sits nicely. There's a few issues. I think technically, I think it looks a little bit over sharpened to me. It's sort of a bit crunchy. And the colour palette's a little bit too cool. I think if you warmed him up a little bit against the cooler background, that would have worked nicer.
Thank you. I can see some of the other judges nodding. Thank you. Next sprint, please. And while our judges are deciding, making their deliberations, I want to really thank KL Hansen for sponsoring this category, with judging the portrait category. So thank you for your support to our industry. Thank you. And we have a silver award, 81. Hillary would like to challenge. Hillary's on 88. You've got an 81, 82, 78, 77.
Yeah, this is. I was just going to say shit, but I don't. Excuse me. This time of year, this time of people's lives, and that to end up in hospital is not nice. It's not nice, and it's compounded here by the fact that obviously his wife is in a wheelchair as well, and they are connecting. The two of them are connecting. They're not connecting just by touch, but they're connecting. He's looking at her, and she's looking at him. And I mean, it's a box of tissues in the foreground and a card of some description on the thing. It's not a way to end your life like that. And I think the photographer has caught this sensitive moment, and maybe it's too close. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Could we hear from Mark?
Yeah, so I stored this as 78. I understand the narrative and the story and the closeness, and I get all that. But in terms of giving me something else, like as a professional standard, like it's beautiful lighting, it's captured nice, they're holding hands, they're looking at each other, but I kind of want to, this is professional practice of what we should be doing as standard professional practice. There's nothing here extra that I look at and be like, oh my goodness, look at those elements. So I'm struggling to get it into silver, but I'm very happy to listen.
Thank you. Could we hear from Adam, please, on 82?
I think the extra source is the moment. Like it could just be a photo of these two people in a room, but it is that connection that brought me specifically straight up into silver, because it is so strong, and there's you could even draw a line through it, sort of parallels with the lines in the background that may otherwise be distracting. What stops me going up into sort of superior communication is just the treatment. There's colour casts all around the room that pull me around and distract me, and even the tiny bit of work, even the reflection or work that's whatever's going on the right-hand side on the woman's face, it kind of softens it down a little bit, whereas he's so crisp with that beautiful light that he's in. There's just little bits that pull me around the image. I am still drawn to the strength through the middle, but everything around it stops me from coming up to silver distinction, but I'm very happy in silver.
Thank you. Back to you, Hilary.
Okay, let's go for silver then, and a good silver, because every point counts. And I think that the touch in that hand, he's managed. I don't know whether he's managed to actually put his hand up like that, and she's got him by his little finger. And that connection is so powerful. The light on that hand is so powerful. It's a very emotive moment.
Thank you. Hilary's score of 88 is locked in. The current average score is 81. Judges, please rescore now. And it goes to 84. Silver award. Thank you. You'd like to add an additional comment? The score has been finalised, so yes, you can make an additional comment.
Really quickly, as I said, I acknowledge everything. That maybe I would be inclined to have a look at it in mono, and that may get rid of some of those casting issues and really focus us in on those expressions and help us tone down those highlights and everything that's getting us away from the absolute pure essence of that photo.
Thank you very much. I'm sure the photographer appreciated all the additional comments. And judges, thank you so much for your efforts today. That's been amazing. And for our rotational judges as well. That is the last print being judged today. And thank you so much to KL Canson for sponsoring this category. And just hang around in case you're needed to judge the PPY category. And I'll hand over to Gary Cranich.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, team. How are we all going? Just hang here for a minute, guys. I'll just speak to you individually. Interstate judges, you guys know you have to stay. You can't go anywhere. Everyone else, I'll just have a quiet chat to you. I'm just checking a couple of other things, and then we'll know what we're doing, all right?